All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning back in for another virtual jiu-jitsu fundamentals class. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
Nope, I was just fixing my hair.
Looks like you already had a question before we even started.
Just fixing my hair.
Got to get the hair dialed in before we get started. So we've been working some escapes from some bad positions recently, and we're going to go ahead and keep that theme going for today. And one of the ones that is always in our fundamentals curriculum, and we're going to cover today, is escaping the mount position. Okay? And with most of our escapes, the way that we escape is often directly related to the nuances of how our opponent is controlling their position. So before we get into escapes and how to do it, I'm going to have actually Mira lay down on her back at maybe like a 45-degree angle this way, with her head a little bit closer to the camera. And we're going to talk about different types of mount, and ones that are going to be easier escape, ones that are going to be harder to escape. And that way you sort of know the whole lay of the land as far as what we're working on here. So Mira's going to go on her back, her head right over here. Okay, that should be pretty good. I'm going to tip the camera down just a little bit. So for the mount position, that generally is going to look like an upside down close guard. So I'm going to be on top of Mira, and my legs are on the outside. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways you could, just relax your arms. There's a lot of different ways you could kind of categorize the mount or break it down. But let's look at two distinctly different things. One is going to be where my hips are relative to her torso, and then the other one is going to be the angle of my torso. Okay, so we need to differentiate between whether I am upright like this or whether I'm down like this. She thought I was going to squish her. That comes later. Okay, so again, we're going to differentiate between if I'm upright like this compared to if I'm down like this. Okay. And then we're also going to differentiate between whether my hips are down kind of by Mira's hips. I can feel her belt and I can feel her hip pointer bones sitting here, as compared to if she lifts her arms up. Just relax right here. If I'm up a little higher like this, I don't know if you've heard that sound that she just made, but this is what we would call a high mount, right? So we theoretically have 4 different scenarios we could be escaping from. Low mount with an upright posture, low mount with a folded over posture, and then high mount with an upright posture, and then high mount with a broken down posture. The lower mounts are generally going to be a lot easier to escape. The higher mounts are generally going to be much more difficult to escape. And so if you find yourself mounted, one of the first things you want to do is try to not let them be up by your armpits. Okay, so we want to get their hips not over your chest and shoulders, but it's going to be a little easier to escape the mount if you get them down by your hips. So that's going to be one of our things. And then 2, it's going to be a little bit easier usually to make our escapes happen if we make them put weight on their hands. Okay, so if I'm on the top and I'm pretty upright, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Mira to escape compared to if I'm on the mount and she gets me to plant my hands on the mat. Now it's a good time for her to start her escapes. And so if you remember our close guard, that was the same thing there. If Mira's on the close guard bottom and she gets me to put my hands on the mat or one hand on the mat, that's better for her and it's worse for me. And that's consistent with the mounted position here. Okay. So let's trade and have Mira go onto the top position. I'm going to go this way.
Which one?
All right, so Mira's going to go to mount, and I'll guide you as we get here. Okay. So the ideal position, I never want to be mounted to begin with, but if I find myself here, the position that I would want to be in to give me the best chance of escaping is probably going to be her in the low mount with her hips on my hips and then her with her hands on the floor. This is going to be the easiest to escape. Okay. She's effectively lighter because she's carrying some of her own weight instead of when her hands are off of the mat and she's up. Now I'm carrying all of the weight of her body. Okay. So it's better for me if I can make her hands on the mat. Okay. Also, when her hips are above my hips, if I do something like a big hip bridge or I do a move where I try to capture her leg, then these things are in range for me. Her legs are within range for me to get. Her hips are over my hips so that when I do a bridge, I actually move her, compared to if Mira slides up into a high mount and her legs are under my armpits and she gets her hands up off of the floor especially, right? Now, like even if I lift my hips, it's not really going to move her much. She can keep her position, and this is a very difficult spot to try to get out of. I find nothing of a high percentage success rate getting out of this. I need to fix this position, okay? So what we'll start with, if I find myself in this high mount where I don't want to be, I don't have a lot of time, right? Because every second that goes by, Mira's going to be making her position better and better. I'm going to be just getting my butt kicked worse and worse every single time. I think she just tried to arm lock or something on me. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to be able to move my body without Mira following me very easily. I want to make it difficult for her to follow me. So I'm going to try to get my hands to double up on one of her hip bones. So I'm making my palm and the back of my hand overlap like this, okay? And I'm doing my best to get it on her hip pointer here. And then my elbow is not going across. I don't want it to go all the way across. That's going to make things even worse for me. So my hand is on one hip pointer. My elbow is kind of on her other hip pointer, okay? And I'm going to get on my toes so that my butt can come a little bit up off of the mat. And my hands are going to not let her follow me, but I'm going to use my body to shuffle, 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 shuffle until now she's more in the low mount. So let's recenter on camera. Mira's going to come all the way off. All the way off. We're going to slide back a little bit. Okay, we'll start here. So Mira's going to get into this high mount position. All right. Even a little higher. Yeah, like this is terrible. When I feel her knees like squeezing my armpits, this is really, really pretty bad for me. So I'm going to double up my hands like this. Put my palm on her hip pointer, okay? And my elbows are on the outside now. I don't want them there, but there's nowhere else for them to go. She already got this high mount position, okay? So I'm going to get my butt off of the mat at least an inch, okay? It doesn't have to be a lot, but just get your butt 1 inch off of the mat. So it's just my toes and my shoulders on the mat. And then I'm going to shoulder walk. And I'm going to keep shoulder walking until I feel her onto my hips. Okay, so that's how I'm going to try to go from high mount down to low mount. Easier said than done, but you got to try something. Okay, and then once I've got her in low mount, I'm going to keep my hands on her hip so that she stays down in low mount. Because if I just let go, she'll come right back up. Right? Okay, so go ahead and go back down. So I got to keep her there. I'm going to keep her there, and I'm keeping my elbows in as much as I can. I don't want my elbows going outwards. My elbows stay in as much as we can. And I'm going to take my knee, and I'm going to whack her in the butt with it. And when I whack her in the butt, that's going to break her posture down and cause her to put her hands on the floor here so she doesn't face plant. Ready? Okay. Just like that. Let's look at that again. So I'm keeping pressure on her hip so that her hips can't come back up. And then while I'm keeping pressure with my hip, I'm going to knee her in the butt. Ready again? Just like that. And now she's in the most vulnerable position for me to try and escape. Okay? So one hop off, and you can just slide back for a little bit. Okay, so in isolation, if you're following along, practice this part now, and then Mira will get to go. So you can just stay on camera here. So if your partner's in the high mount, you're gonna double up your grip so that you're on her hip pointer, on their hip pointer. We're gonna get your butt a little bit off of the mat, just so that there's a little daylight under here, which should be easy because their weight isn't there, right? Their weight is up here. And then I'm gonna shoulder walk like this until now they're above my hips. Once they're above my hips, I take one knee and I whack them in the butt, and their hands should go to the floor. Okay, let's look at this one more time, and then Mira will do it, and you guys can follow along with Mira. Okay, so they're in the high mount. I double up my hands, put them on their hip pointer. Okay, I get my butt 1 inch up off of the mat, and then I shoulder walk, and I don't let them follow me. You see how now my hands are above my own hips. Once I'm there, I knee them in the butt, and their hands should go to the mat. Okay, so that's stage one of our escape. And now Mira's gonna go ahead and do it. And if you guys need to trade partners or something at home, this would be a good time to trade partners. Okay, so let's go over here. And we're gonna angle the 45 the same way as before.
This way?
The other way, feet toward me. There, that way. Okay, so I get into the high mount on Mira, okay? And to let your partner do that, just put your arms up like this, and your partner is gonna come get this sort of a pinch right here, okay? So it's gonna be difficult for Mira now. She's in a pretty tough spot. So she's gotta do her best to get both of her hands on my hip pointer right here. Easier said than done, but as best as she can. She gets her butt 1 inch up off of the mat, and then she shoulder walks that way until I become above her hips. Perfect, okay, this is very good. She keeps this pressure, super important. She keeps this pressure and doesn't let it up. And while she keeps it, she's gonna take one knee, whack me in the butt, keep the hip pressure, there you go. Yep, so, yep, this is exactly what we want. We'll reset back a little bit, scoot to me. Okay, and we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna start in the high mount. Okay, she's gonna get both hands on the hip pointer, shoulder walk back, until now I'm in the low mount, okay? Now she wants my hands on the ground, so she's gonna whack me in the butt. Perfect, and she did a very nice job. You guys can see on camera here, very nice job keeping her arms outstretched, and so I'm still in the low mount, okay? If she had relaxed her arms, go ahead and relax your arms. If she had relaxed, I'm gonna come right back up into my high mount, get her arms up and isolated, and this is where arm bars are gonna happen, and a bunch of problems that we don't want if we're the bottom player. All right. So that's how we get started with it. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the main escape that we typically start our white belts with when we teach. And this is the bridge and roll escape, or an Oompa escape. I don't know what Oompa means exactly. I've talked to some people that are bilingual and speak Portuguese, and they speak English and train jiu-jitsu, and they say it's something along the lines of like a giddy up or something that is, part of our language here, but I don't really know that for sure. So if anybody out there can confirm one way or the other, what does Oompa or Oompa mean, then I would be all ears, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and go into that one now and actually get out of the mount position. So let's recap what we've done already. So Mira starts in the high mount. Starts in the high mount. I make both of my hands on her hip pointer here. I get my butt off of the mat a little bit, and I shoulder walk back, okay? From here, I've got to keep this pressure on her hip pointer, and then I want her hands on the mat, so I'm gonna whack her in the butt. Now that her hand is on the mat, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come and I'm gonna capture this. I'm gonna try to collapse that arm. So I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but my hands are grabbing each other, right? Both of my hands, I'm grabbing each other, so her arm is fairly bent right now, okay? She definitely can't reach it over closer to the camera. That's the important thing. Now this foot on the same side of the arm I have trapped is gonna come block her foot. So she can't put out her arm or her leg on this side of her body because I have it trapped. From this position, I'm gonna bridge onto the point of my shoulder, and then we're gonna roll over, and then I'm going to be into the close guard. I'm gonna be in Mira's close guard. Okay, let's look again. So Mira's in the high mount. Hands on hip pointer, butt up, shoulder walk, knee in the butt. I'm gonna get her arm and I'm gonna collapse it in. It's like I'm trying to make her elbow touch her own hip pointer, okay? I block her foot on the same side, and then I go hips high, 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 and I turn to that side, and I come onto the top position. Okay? Now, one little detail that's very difficult to see with this, but I'm gonna try to walk you guys through it on this final rep. And we'll compare this to one of the most common mistakes that I see. Okay, so if Mira comes on the top position and she goes into this high mount, okay, remember how we said that I'm doubling up my hands on this hip pointer, but then the elbow of this side is approximately on her other hip pointer. So I have contact on both of her hip pointers. And that's a pretty important detail, okay? And so remember that, and I'm gonna show you where it becomes a useful thing for us. So I go there, I get to my low mount position, okay? I knee her in the butt, her hands go to the mat. I collapse this, and what I'm trying to do is my left elbow is trying to find her hip pointer again, or somewhere in that area, okay? Because what I'm gonna do once I trap her arm and her leg is my left elbow is going to drive into her to add power to my roll, okay? So I'm bridging and my left elbow is driving into her, and I continue to drive this elbow right here the whole time. All right, that's gonna help control her hips, and I'm doing so in such a way that gives me a lot of safety and protection with this. My arm is not vulnerable, all right? Now let's look at a mistake that I see most white belts make when they first start, okay? And not just white belts, I see it from a lot of people, colored belts too. Okay. So, yeah, so same thing. So let's say I already have Mira into the low mounted position, okay? Or in any sort of mount, it doesn't matter. What people try to do, if the person is in maybe like a high mount, or an upright position like this, is they try to push them off. All right, don't let yourself lean back. They try to push them off, and maybe they try to turn like this. But anybody that's got any training on the top, they're gonna armbar the crap out of you in like 2 seconds. Yeah, exactly like that. That was textbook armbar. Okay, so yeah, so she'll armbar me like crazy there. Okay, so if the person is upright and the hand goes to the chest, like you're a sitting duck here on the bottom. Okay. The other one that happens, and we're gonna pretend I'm gonna roll Mira away from the camera just so you guys can see what I'm talking about, would be if I get her hands down and instead of using my elbow on her hip pointer, I try to knock her over like this. And this feels powerful, and so people wanna try to do it. But now I'm not controlling her hips anymore. And so if Mira is crafty, what she's gonna do is she's gonna slide this knee way up until her knee touches my head, basically. Way up. No, not that. So slide it up. Yes, there you go. And now I'm screwed. I'm in bad news. She can armbar me again. She can do a bunch of offense. So that is, not that it never works, but it's pretty risky because you can really get armbarred, and the armbar can be very bad. It can be one that your partner cannot go light on because their weight comes down onto it without their control. And so you can really snap your arm pretty badly, basically by accident with that one, okay? So the safest way is trying to keep your arm at 90 degrees and trying to put your elbow on their hip pointer, okay? So now let's, I'll walk through one by myself and then we'll have Mira do it, okay? So let's just say I've already got them into this low mount position. I knee them in the butt, their hands go on the floor. I'm clasping my hands together. I'm pulling their arm in so that their elbow is near their own hip pointer. From here, I use my foot and I block it. So I've got her arm and her leg on this same side that are both trapped, at least for a moment. I don't have a long time or else she'll get out, but for a moment. And so here, I'm gonna go high bridge. You see how I'm going at this sort of 45-degree angle? I'm going all the way onto my shoulder. My hips are as high as possible. And then I just turn over and I get to the top position there, okay? And remember, and I think it'll be helpful without a partner on top, this elbow is trying to find their hip pointer or somewhere around there to really drive into their hip strong. So again, I need them in the butt. I made their hands go to the mat. I'm going to trap their arm. I'm going to trap their foot. And as I'm bridging, I'm using the power of my hips to also propel my elbow to really drive them over. And I'm going to get onto the top position there. Okay. All right. So now let's have Mira walk through it. She'll do one where she already has me low mount and my hands are on the floor. And then we'll do one of the whole thing where she's got to put all the steps together here. Okay. So let's do that same 45 we've been doing. Okay. Right about there's good. Okay. So Mira already has me in the low mount and my hands are on the floor. So she's going to collapse this arm in. So she's going to make a circle around it with both hands. Grab her hands just like that. And she's going to bend my arm so my arm is stuck. And in a perfect world, she gets my hand off the mat even. That's excellent for her. Now her foot is going to block my foot. And now she's going to start to lift her hips up and turn to her right. Exactly. And then she gets on the top. Okay, let's do it again. Let's go a little farther from the camera. Okay. And on this one, I'll have Mira try to really emphasize her left elbow going into my hip area. Okay. So she has me in low mount. She has my hands on the floor. She traps my arm. She traps my foot. And now she bridges and drives her left elbow into me. Yes, much better. Much better. All right, we're going to give Mira a couple more reps here. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat right now so we have time to answer them before our class gets dismissed. But let's do another rep here. We'll start a little more that way. And now Mira will put it all together where she's going to start in the really tough spot into that high mount, and then she'll have to move to low mount and then make the escape after that. Yeah, go ahead and go down. That'll be better. There you go. Okay, so she's here, and she's got to go from the high mount to the low mount. So she's going to double up on my hip pointer, get her butt off the mat, and shoulder walk to there. Now she needs my hands on the mat, so she's going to knee me in the butt. My hands are on the mat. She traps my arm, traps my foot, bridge, and roll. There it is. Okay, let's do it again. So I'm in the high mounted position. Okay, she gets double up on my hip pointer, butt off the mat. Squirm, squirm, squirm. Good. Knee me in the butt. Good. Trap my arm, trap my foot. Bridge and roll. Off camera a little bit, but I think people got the gist of it. All right. So that's all very good. I want to take the top and again maybe make a visual for you guys about those bad things that can happen if Mira puts her arm into one of the dangerous positions here. Okay, so let's have Mira your head here and your feet that way. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, so if I'm in the mounted position, and this is especially true if I'm maybe in a little bit of a higher mounted position, if she's trying to push me off of her, she's trying to push me and roll me over, this arm becomes super in danger because she's just extending it, and I'm going to come. You guys see how I've got her arm ready to get my arm bar right away there. Okay. So one more time, she's going to try to like push me off of her, like to try to roll me over, and it's not going to turn out very well for her. I'm going to come right into my arm bar, and she's going to have a bad day there. Okay. Now this next one, we're going to do pretty slowly because this one is the one I said can be pretty dangerous here. But if she, instead of pushing on my chest, if maybe I'm down like this and she tries to go, relax. If she tries to make her arm, reach her arm to the sky, so she's going to try to whack me that way by hitting me in the ribs. Okay. And the problem that happens is as she starts to turn and go, So her arm is stuck here. Her arm is stuck here like this. And obviously she can feel how it's endangered that way. But if this happens with a lot of momentum, so very slowly we're going to keep turning. What can happen is her arm gets stuck here and my weight starts to come down onto it. If you could imagine, I go into like a belly down position there. That can be a bad day for Mira over here.
I'd be so mad.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't put your arm there. Yeah. All right. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat before we get class dismissed. Mira, do you have any questions?
No, I think that was pretty good. Actually, what happens if I'm on top and then you like take your hands and you like trap my arm?
Mm-hmm.
What keeps me from taking my free hand and just putting it on your neck and choking you?
You can do that. Let's take a look. Let's see how that goes. Let's take a look. You asked the question.
I really want to know.
Okay. So I knee her in the butt. I trap this. She's going to try to smash my windpipe. Go ahead. Try it. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
And that's why you train jiu-jitsu. So yeah, and it's a fair question. And the reality is I've trapped all of her base on that side. She can't, the only thing she can do to stop my roll is to stick her arm out or stick her leg out and, and make a post on the mat so that I can't roll her over. And since I've trapped her arm and her leg, she can't do either of those things. And so her last resort apparently is trying to put her elbow into my windpipe and suffocate me. But that didn't work, did it? So if you guys have any other questions after the fact on this, hit me up, let us know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in today, and we will see you next time.